So yesterday we were discussing about all these property uh, operators when you are expressing a vector operator in matrix form. So all these 7 properties we discussed, and we mentioned that this last one is very important because this when you consider this operator A and B is measuring some value of a quantum state, so the sequence of measurement that matters actually, because once you measure that it is a invasive quantum mechanical measurement is invasive, so quantum state can change. So that's why their sequence is important. However, mathematically, if you know how they commute, the commutation symbol is like this, that AB minus BA, then you can actually operate in any way and you can find that thing. And we'll learn today a little bit uh, different aspects the operator. So far we were considering that those operators are just operating on time independent set state function. So here we will just try to understand if any operator that gives you, after operating, the time evolution of the wave function. So that is very important because you operate on a state function which is state vector which is known at t equal to 0, what it comes after time t. So we discussed earlier that once you know at t equal to 0, you can just multiply e to the power minus I e by h bar t, then you get the time dependent evolution. Here we look into that in terms of operator. So if you see in general, we can evolve a wave function psi forward in time by applying the time evolution operator. So you start from the Schrodinger wave equation, Schrodinger equation, where Hamiltonian itself we consider that is actually time independent. Okay, so you know this is the Schrodinger equation we earlier described it, I h bar del del t psi and equal to h psi. So instead of simple psi, what we write here, Kate psi. That is the difference here, because we have learned now to represent state vector in terms of Bra and Kate notation. So now if you just simply solve this equation by integrating, just integrate, then you can get psi, Kate psi as a function of time. So simply you are just considering that Hamiltonian means total energy, that's a kinetic energy and potential energy, and you are representing as a operator. Now you get this equation. So instead of E, you are writing H as a operator. Total energy as a operator, Hamiltonian operator. So this is as a whole, this can be considered as a operator, which is a function of another operator, e to the power minus I h what t by h cot. Okay, so in initial condition you can put at t equal to 0, psi was psi 0. So you can find how the evolution of Kate vector as a function of time through this equation 91. Okay, so now you just look it carefully. So this is a Kate vector, and you are using an operator here, then you can get another Kate vector. You just forget about time dependencies, etc. You can say that just this one is a kind of operator. So that operator will be calling as a time evolution because time involved here. Okay, and we represent this operator like this, u, right? And let us try to see an interesting property of u. So this interesting property means whether whatever we discussed in the previous class, that different type of matrix and different type of their property. So here what we take, we just suppose we are giving we are operating U on psi, and then we are taking inner product with another state vector phi. Okay, so now you see, this is what I mean to say. You are operating one state vector phi and another state vector psi, and then you are just taking inner product between them. Okay, so just a minute. Anjana. Right. So what is happening? Is that visible, right? Or no? Can you confirm? I see some problem.
It was flickering, but as of now it's fine.
So it is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, just 1 minute. Now it's all right, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what we are trying to get this inner product after operating time evolution operator on psi and phi. Then this one, if you say, if I take this one outside this U operator, then we know that that should be, we learned earlier that that has to be, if it is a matrix form, then you have to take conjugate transpose. So you are taking conjugate transpose and taking outside. And for the Kate vector, you don't have to do anything. So you can express this one like this. So bra phi and then U dagger U and psi. Okay. So now you know that this U dagger U, if you just see, that is nothing but you take complex conjugate of this one and you are considering this Hamiltonian as a real one, then what you can get, you get this at equal to, in principle, 1. So we get finally that phi and psi inner product, right? So one thing is clear, whenever you are representing U and U dagger in a matrix form, so we have to have this U dagger U is an identity matrix. So identity matrix means you have only the diagonal elements will be 1. Okay, that is identity matrix. So that is actually the time evolution operator has special property for any state vector for quantum mechanical system. We can write like that. So this is one property we should keep in mind. Okay, so now equation 91, you just a little bit work on it. You see equation 91, this is what you have, time evolution operator and psi 0. Now if I just expand the psi 0 in basis vectors, we know we have defined the basis vector in a vector space phi n. Normally sometimes this phi n you can consider, sometimes people used to use some kind of I, because this is just a vector component, orthogonal basis vectors. So you can just use it, but we are consistently using phi n as a basis vectors. Phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, they are actually basis vector and they are orthogonal. So the psi 0 could be represented like this. That means you are actually finding the component of psi 0 along basis vectors. So if there are n-dimensional basis vector space, so in different components I can write down and we can sum up. This is a kind of vector you can write in vector space for a given state basis functions here. So now what you do here, this thing, this psi t, if you are just writing this t, e to the power I h t here, you take inside, operate, then you get, for example, E n t by h card. So just whenever operating, you supposed to get your energy eigenvalue. So that's why whenever you are taking inside, you are just putting this one and psi 0 as it is given here. We can write simply. Okay. So why I am writing in this form, I just want to give you another very important aspect of quantum state, particularly for a quantum harmonic oscillator. So, you know, I have introduced you that some quantum harmonic oscillator qualitatively in earlier classes, but we'll come to that point again for deriving everything. But you remember that we have used the energy eigenstates, energy eigenvalues for a quantum harmonic oscillator. We just forcefully wrote that we promised that we will be deriving this, but again you just take that one without knowing its derivation, how it is coming. Just accept for the moment that these eigenvalues are for a quantum harmonic oscillator this one, where omega, you know, this kind of characteristics frequency. If it is a simple harmonic oscillator, so what is the frequency you can write. So for this En, if I just replace this En here, right, En here for quantum harmonic oscillator. Yeah. So, you know, h cut was in the denominator, it will be cancelled. And so that means n half, we can write e to the power minus I n plus half omega t, right? So now this n is an integer, n equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, that corresponding to the eigenstate, and here their corresponding eigenvalues will be like this, we discussed earlier. Now suppose I try to understand what is the value of this psi for a given specific time instant. So Ts equal to 2 pi omega. From t equal to 0, you are moving in time scale up to 2 pi by omega. Omega is the frequency. So 2 pi by omega, you know, that is the time period. And when we put some s integer, that means every time period I want to see what is happening to this wave function for simple harmonic oscillator. So this is the ground state, psi 0, right? So whenever I am just taking all the components, that means you are just spanning your entire state of the quantum harmonic oscillator into its eigenvalues. So all the components, I am just adding them, and each of them having their energy, and this energy, if I just write down n, so you are summing over n, so it's all right. Equation 95, I think it is not so difficult to understand. Now, if you just put t equal to ts equal to 2 pi omega, that is a particular discrete time point. At a particular time point, you try to find time points, I would say, because every period you want to get. So you see this, I am writing here instead of t, I am writing ts. So I just, again, the components are there. This spanning vectors, and then psi 0. And then here, this one, if you just put 2 pi by omega into s. So you know n is an integer, and then whenever you are putting t equal to ts, then 2 pi by omega into s multiplied. So that will be some e to the power I 2 pi. So that will be cancelled. So leftover part will be I omega ts by 2. Because e to the power I 2 pi n, some integer, that means 1. So you get this value, right? Now, again, you just look back. This ts is left over with half frequency here, that is 0 point energy, corresponding to 0 point energy is there. Now you just put down this t value, ts value, 2 pi by omega times s. So what you get? So 2 pi by omega, 2 pi by omega, it will be cancelled. So it will be e to the power I pi, e to the power minus I pi, right? And of course, s is there, e to the power minus I s pi. So that value, if you just see, now s will be you are increasing from 1 to 0, so discrete way. So that actually comes minus 1 to the power s psi 0. So what does it mean? That this function is now becoming independent of independent of n. So that means this is independent of n, means you are summing over n. That means all the components will be will have this factor, common factor. For that particular instant of time, it is not always. Every period, if you are just seeing, just try to visualize this. This is very important to visualize for quantum state. That would help in future also. So what I mean to say, after a regular interval of time period, say here, you see all are coming with a same constant. All components will have same constant phase factor, right? And that constant phase factor means maybe you will be getting -1 to the power s, some integer here will be there, and psi 0. You understand? You are summing up. Once you are summing up, because all these are unit vectors basically, and you are just writing down the components. So all components will have +1 or -1 value, depending on s value. S equal to 1, it is a -1. S equal to 2, it is a +1, and so on. So if you sum up, then you get in this form equation. So that is easy to understand. Now what is this? 96. If you just try to visualize that, I am just trying to look every interval of time Ts, and every interval of time Ts, I see that it will be either minus amplitude with the kth vector or plus amplitude with the kth vector. So that means one time period it will come minus with a ground state, and another time period it will be coming plus time period. And intermediate time, you will have, because in intermediate time you have another time constant will be there. In that case, all the states will have different value. N values will be there, right? Because we are not putting s as an integer now, other time instant. So in that case, you will see that superposition of all the components in course of time. As your time evolves, you will see superposition of all the components. And here also I see superposition of all the components for this time instant, but you see it is a well-defined ground state basically. So that means if your state vector having eigenstates, you span with different eigenstates, and they evolved in different time phase is there. But if it is if their energy spacing, energy spacing of the eigenstates are regular, like here in this case of quantum harmonic oscillator, the energy spacings are h cad omega, h cad omega, h cad omega. Every eigenstate it will be raised by h cad omega. So for this regular, whenever the eigenstates are having eigenvalues with a fixed energy difference, then you will see that after a particular period of time, it will reproduce a certain shape of the total wave function. Okay, so it will reproduce. So in between, the wave function will be different. Spatially, it will be different. But periodically, it will come with a certain period, certain shape of the wave function. So that is the take-home message. If you have a superposition of eigenstates, that means the spatial distribution may change over time, but every time period, a specific time period, it will come with a particular shape. So that is a periodic shape. Superposition, this is a principle of superposition of eigenstates actually. So in case of quantum harmonic, it looks like that it is echo is coming again and again, but this is not a generic, as I said. This is actually possible only when any Schrodinger wave equation giving you eigenstates with eigenvalues with a regular spacing, h cad omega here. If they are not at a regular interval, so you would not get this type of well-defined periodicity of the state vector, total state vector. Okay, this is we'll come back again and again to the quantum harmonic oscillator, because this is so useful for this understanding your quantum photonics devices. So I will come back again. Before that, I want to discuss an important thing. I think I have 5-10 minutes time. I can just finish up this part, because this part I will give you a little bit of work also for you, small derivation. Then I think we can come back again on Tuesday. So now we will discuss the uncertainty principle for non-commuting operators. So most of the time we know that we can find a pair of quantum operator and they may not commute each other. Such non-commuting operators you assume A and B. Two non-commuting operator for a given state vector. Non-commuting means we define that AB box not equal to 0. That means AB minus BA not equal to 0. If it is 0, then we will say that it's commuting. That is good for our many things, but for quantum mechanics, I think that is unlikely most of the time. Certain things. So if this is the situation for a pair of operators, okay, and you have a given state vector psi, now we know that the mean square uncertainties or variances whenever you are measuring with a state vector for psi with a measurand or operator A. We have defined earlier the variance. You know, integration form we have represented earlier. Now instead of integration, we are just using bracket notation. So they are actually integration of psi star and this one and psi dq bar that we have written earlier. Now since we have again used to with the bra and ket, we are writing like this. Similarly for B, variance for the operator B, again separately we are measuring, right? Then you can get this thing. So it is just this is the average whenever expectation value of B and this is the expectation value of the A. So then each time you are measuring and then you are just subtracting what is the variance, because that can be plus and minus, so you get a square. So as usual we discussed earlier. So this is the two things. Now we define a new operators R forcefully. This is the thing we are considering to reach to a certain quantum mechanical hypothesis principle. Okay, so R we are defining A minus expectation of A. That is R. That means this one I am defining. This one I am defining as a R. This expectation means A is there, so that value is like this. Similarly, I am just defining A is equal to this one, B minus B expectation. That means whatever the operator and the expectation value I am defining. Then the above equation reduces to, so you just simply, that's 97 will come instead of this one, this is R square. So we are writing R square. This is actually S square. I am writing S square. Now again, you see, whenever you are taking expectation value of A and B, they are constants. Because you are operating on psi and whatever expectation value you will be getting, that is average value so called. So they must be constant. We can simply write, so if you just a little bit work on it, because AB is a constant, expectation value is constant, and we have this expression, then we can simply show that, that means how the type of commutation between A and B will follow type of commutation R and S. Because you see, this is your constant. This is a constant. So the commutation relation between A and B follows same commutation relation of R and S. That is what I am writing here. Because this is constant. This value is constant. This value is constant. What is the variation? That is what I defined R by RS. Right? And now constructing a linear combination of R and S like this. It's kind of imposition here. Because if we consider this thing, we can reach to a certain solution. Okay, that's why we are mentioning this. We are taking this expression and taking scalar product. So this function, you just consider any of these two vectors, because we have defined R and S, and their linear superposition with just I lambda. Lambda is some value. It can be a real. It is real because I am putting I here. It is a real value. You are just consider it's a scalar you can consider. Now this is a Kate vector, this is a Kate vector, and you are making a superposition. It will be another Kate vector after operations, and so that Kate vector you can take a scalar product with itself. Whatever the resultant is there, you take a scalar product with itself. Okay. Then if you take a scalar product, normally anyway. Any Kate vector or any state vector, if you take a scalar inner product, you know that that is actually, if it is a zero vector, then it will become zero. Otherwise, always it is greater than zero. It's a positive value. Whenever you are taking an inner product, that means you are getting a norm. that length, absolute length of the vector, right? So that absolute length of the vector, if the vector itself is not 0, that should be greater than 0. So we write that if you take an inner product, that this following inner product, then you multiply them. So you take inner product means you have to take complex conjugate and so on. Then you multiply. You take the complex conjugate of this one and then multiply simply according to this formula. So we know that must be greater than equal to 0. So this is the inequality we are trying to see. Okay. So here it will be again R will be there, and you are just multiplying. You will come. I think you can just do a little bit yourself. A plus B minus A minus B. That you are multiplying, taking a dot product like this. You are just getting. So now reorganizing that equation in terms of uncertainties. Okay. Now you know that uncertainties expressions is like that. So here, if you just do this, this is the task I want to give you. That I think few steps. If you just reorganize, then this thing can be this thing can be written as like this. This inequality. This is still greater than equal to 0, and the one term I will be getting that variance of A and lambda square. This should be B. I'm sorry. This is a mistake here. Equation 100. This should be B. Variance of A and variance of B, right? And then another third term will be this I lambda. So expectation value of commutation A and B. Because R and A's commutation is exactly equal to commutation of A and B. So just simple few steps, you can come to this point. Okay. Once you get this, now you see lambda is arbitrary constant I have considered there in our previous assumption, right? Then this inequality will be stronger when you find a lambda value. This is actually a quadratic equation of lambda square. So lambda, you can find a minimum value of lambda. How you will get the minimum value of lambda? Then it will be stronger. Once you get a minimum value of lambda, then it will be stronger inequality. So that minimum value, you can just make a derivative of this and equal to 0 and find a lambda value. Okay. So if you do so, you get this expression, lambda equal to this one. Okay. This substituting this lambda back again there, that's a normal, whatever you do, how to find the minimum value, etc. in the standard differential equation, you substitute back here, you get this equation. Okay, lambda value will be replaced. So once you replace, that means we are just getting that inequality in this form. So this form means, this one means what? This is the expectation value of commutation A and B. Psi is there, psi is there, and this psi is there, right? So this is so straightforward. Now both sides, if you take square root, sorry, this minus sign will not be there. So this is square root. If you take, it is a delta A, it is a delta B, and this is minus 1 square root I by 2. This minus sign also mistake. I just hurriedly writing down this I by 2, right? And this one, this thing. Okay, so this is the important equation. That means this is the variance of A. That means whenever you are measuring with an operator A, and you can find their variance, that means error in delta A. Similarly, if you find the, if you measure independently with B, and you can find the error in B. So delta A and delta B must be greater than I by 2 commutation of A and B. Actually, this is the origin of uncertainty principle. And we will just discuss that various conjugate parameters, physical parameter, like position and momentum, energy and time. If you try to measure position and momentum, they don't commute each other. Right? And in that case, we can also find the error in momentum and error in position. That will be actually the expectation value of their commutation. So that is what Heisenberg actually hypothesized, that's Heisenberg hypothesis of uncertainty principle, we'll try to derive directly from here using momentum operator and position operator in the next class. Okay, so this is what I can end here today, because I did not want to miss this class, but I was a little bit late, so short class. I think you try to grasp this part, because this is the actually heart of entire quantum mechanics. Even for all quantum mechanical predictions, everything that depends on uncertainty, this uncertainty principle. That's why I thought that we should have certain kind of derivation. I think most of the books you may not find this type of derivation. Normally they just directly give that, okay, this is the uncertainty principle, they accept directly. But here quantum mechanically we have shown, just assumption was that there will be some measurement variations. Okay, and this uncertainty principle only valid when it is between a pair of operator which does not commute. Okay, with this I stop here. Thank you. I'm just a little bit late today, but I will continue again Tuesday from here. And in between, I think Arnav and Ramon, they are going to upload your what do you call that, assignment 2. So you keep on solving that, and it can be discussed in